good evening, and welcome to the Balie. My name is Rosalie Dielissen, and I am your moderator of the night. And tonight we will be welcoming Alana S. Portero to the Balie in collaboration with Meridian Uitgevers. In Alana Portero's words, for years, transgender narratives in literature have often been boxed into analytical frameworks that reduce trans experiences to something to be dissected or explained. Thankfully, literature can do so much more. It can connect us all through the universality of human experience. In Bad Habit, Portero's protagonist navigates a world that may feel more familiar than you might expect, challenging the narratives we often hear about trans lives in today's current events. Tonight, I'm not only excited to dive into Alana's work, but also explore the wider world of trans literature with two other brilliant writers, Lara Bilirense and Valentijn Hogekamp. Together, yeah, of course. Together we'll discuss how their works resonate with each other and the common threads that run through their stories. But before I do so, I want to introduce Alana properly, because she is the star of the show, of course. She holds a degree in medieval studies from the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. She's a writer, playwright, and director, as well as the co-founder of the theater company Striga. Coming from a working-class background, she writes from the perspective of a trans woman for a range of publications, including Agente Provocador, El Diario, Moda, and Vogue. Bad Habit is her debut novel. Once again, a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosalie.
Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to talk to you, but before we do so, you're going to read something for us, and
yes.
I would like to invite you to do so. Do you want to sit here, or do you want to stand there?
Okay.
Me.
Excuse for my English. So, we were in our usual bar. Her with her recently coiffed high ponytail, and me applying makeup with a portable mirror I could place on the table. We were waiting for them to bring us an order of patatas bravas, which she loved, and a couple of beers with lemon. Homie Poloni, you can go on like this. Like what, Eugenia? Like this girl, and you know it. I looked away from the little mirror and at her. She continued, "It's fine with me if you want to fuck the whole neighborhood paint up in drag. You go for it. When I was your age, not a day went by when I didn't get my booty clap on. It's not that, Marica. It's not that. If you'd thrown yourself under a bus the day we met, well, I would chalk it up to another fuck who couldn't take it anymore. A lost soul, lost forever. That's just some people's path. I would lit a candle for you and forgotten you." She paused when the waiter came with our drinks and food. You'll have to forgive me, Marica, but it hurts me to see you come in here dressed like one of the Johns of Calle Valverde, then go into the bathroom and come out the way you come out, shaking your hips and with a different voice. And you're only in there for 10 minutes, girl, 10 minutes. And that doesn't scare me as much as the road back, the one I don't see. When you take off the makeup and the heels and you get dressed again for the other side. That's death, Marica. That's death. We had talked a lot over that year, and I had seen her in most every mood, but never so moved. She remained firm. Her voice didn't tremble. She spoke each word with the proper combination of scolding, concern, and affection. But she was having more trouble than usual holding back the tears that flooded her eyes without spilling. "I know what you've told me. I've listened to it all. I understand, Marica. How could I not understand? But you can go on like this. You think I don't see the toll it's taking on you? From one month to the next, I see how your weight goes up and go down, how your little eyes droop. And I know that's not all, girl. It looks like all the saints and demons have abandoned you. They are not listening to my prayers. My matches go out, and I don't light more than 3. It's better not to have them by our side than to force them to be there. I didn't know anything about saints and demons, but by that point I knew Eugenia well enough to understand that I shouldn't discount her relationship with them. I'd learned that if she felt it was essential to add them to her list of concerns about me, they would stay there alongside of other fears. Eugenia, I just can't. I'll never be able. I'm so scared. It's really scary, girl. How could it not be? Have you seen them out there? But what choice do we have? What else can we do? I could never have a conversation like that with anyone. Eugenia's questions, her statements, were so spot on that they left me completely naked, and there was nothing in this world I feared more than nakedness. Facing up to the truths of both my flesh and my soul. As she spoke to me, she was giving me a landing pad, a warm, dimly lit space without the lacerations of the sun, of the dreamy states of the moon. A place where finally, naked and exposed, I could rest. I cried, I wept, I smoked the only eye I had put makeup on, and I couldn't stop through the entire conversation. I do my nights. I began stammering, trying to control my hiccups. I find a man, 2 or 3, wherever I need to end up feeling empty. I don't use them. I give them back everything they give me in spades. Well, while I'm with them, I imagine that they love me, that they would die for me, that I'm a goddess, a queen, a priestess, a concubine. I would die for them while they devour me or dominate me. You know, Eugenia? I find so much light in that submission. That's horrible to admit, and I know that it's a bad way to start out as a woman, putting my desire, however fleeting, into the hands of men. But I can't do it alone. I can even touch myself alone in my room. As soon as I run my hand over my chest or pelvis, I shrink like a worm, Eugenia. I lose my ability to fantasize. I'm left blank and trembling, as if my body disappeared, as if it were here to some cosmic dumb shit for bodies that don't belong anywhere. But when one of those blessed men puts his hand on the back of my neck and sticks his cock in my mouth, or when I have them inside me, new outlines appear before me. They sketch out a body that I like or can imagine liking. I've never known anything else. I never learned to define myself with loving words. I need desiring hands on me for that. God, this is embarrassing to say out loud, Eugenia. I'm dying of shame. Sweetheart, nothing shameful about it. Some tall, dark, and pot-bellied guy can reach that place your pride can't. And he reminds you why hanging on this world is worth the effort. You don't need to make excuses for yourself around me. Where I come from, they're still waiting for the first wave feminism. The thing is, what comes next? What happens after that? Why do you keep kidnapping yourself? Because I'm really scared. We already know that, Marika. But what you're doing to yourself is torture, and it doesn't work. How long are you going to keep this up? Do you have any other plan? because this one isn't working. Look at you, for fuck's sake. You can't even talk about it without crying. You can't just play at being a woman. We are women. We can't help it. You're proof of that. Putting on makeup and shaking your ass in heels a couple of weekends a month isn't being a woman. It's an escape, a band-aid, glibness that, sure, liberates you for a little while. It has its place, but it's costing you your life. I've been there, and I respect it. But it's a sham. The woman inside you, the real one, is still trapped between narrow walls, and she's going to suffocate. And when she suffocates, that's it, Marica. You're gone. No one can save you then. The other one, the soulless one in a button-up shirt, and with a deep voice, is a dead man walking.
Thank you so much. I asked you to read this passage because, for me at least, it was something that really summarized the book, or really had the essence of what you were writing. But I'm also very curious, how is it for you to read this again?
It's strange, and in other language it's different, because I discovered new things and new fears, and sometimes I feel ashamed.
Really?
And my own text is like screaming at me from the pages, and it's a strange thing, because there's so much time I've read for the last time, like since, I don't know, a year, and it's a strange exercise.
And you said ashamed. Why?
Because it's so explicit, and because it broke the limits between the character and me, and it's not easy to carry this sensation.
And you mean it broke the characters between me and the character because this is what you feel or felt?
Not anymore, but in a moment of my life, yeah, totally. And I use human examples to write my books, and I use myself with that one to transformate my reality, my own reality, to revisit my past, and create a fiction on my own experience. But the truth, I always find a path, a little space to emerge, and I feel like, wow, I feel exposed.
And is this one of the first passages you wrote, or one of the last?
I think one of the last. I think so. It's and read the book in another language. It's like put another metaphor between the text and me. But I'm totally convinced that metaphors are another form of being naked. No, you can't hide behind the metaphors, and I don't know. It's been a strange sensation. This reading. I have to process.
You have to process.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'll promise the audience we're coming back to it later, and I'll give you some time to process. So I'll zoom out a bit because the novel is called Bad Habit, and I'm also very curious to why call it Bad Habit.
Because in Spanish is la mala costumbre, and I loved a film by Pedro Almodóvar, which name is La Mala Educación, and it's like I pay homage to this film, and because everything in this book is a bad habit, the bad habit of don't be able to express the truth of the character. The family is not able to conversate with her daughter. The society have the bad habit to judge and to form an image of a person without asking to this person who is. So it's there's a lot of bad habits in the text.
Yeah, but you called it bad habit.
Yeah.
So what is the bad habit from the book?
Don't be able to talk. The silence, and remain in the mind palace, in your inner abysm, is a really bad habit, because you can have inner world because it's healthy and it's great, but if the inner world turns into an inner abyss, it's a problem, and it's a problem of this poor twin of mine, and it's her worst habit to remain inside herself.
And what I recognize is that when we were talking beforehand and also now, you interchange between the character and what I am feeling. Do you think the character is you?
No. It's like my twin. It's like my doppelganger. Like I said, I use myself like an example, like a firm floor to build some fictions.
Yeah.
But it's inevitable. I think in every book, in every novel, the author truth emerges in some point. So this is not me, but this is related to me a lot. It's like a twin. It's like a twin, or it's like a phantom of mine. No?
Yeah.
So,
and what about the characters? Are they also forms of twins, or are they actually people that exist?
there are mixtures of real people. I think we writers create with the tools of reality, the people we know, the things we hear, the things we see, and these characters are. Some of them pay homage to a generation of women, of trans women. Some of them pay homage to a generation of working class women of my neighborhood. There are mixtures and extraction of a lot of people.
And you talk about your neighborhood. You grew up in San Blas. That's where the book is situated as well.
Yes.
Could you maybe? I'm also curious who read the book. Okay, a lot of people, but not everyone. So maybe could you take us back to San Blas?
San Blas was a working class neighborhood of Madrid, of the southwest of Madrid. And during 70s and 80s was a very poor place with a very hard problem with heroin, and it was a place with a lot of sense of that was important, helping each other.
So it was a real community.
Yes, because we were like abandoned by by politics and by our own state, and it was a very hard political German. But when heroin was like a flood who swept 2 generations of people, mine and like the generation on top.
So your parents.
Yes, and for example, when you finish school and you take a photo of the whole class. My class, we were 27. And we are now 12 alive.
Wow.
So this was San Blas.
Yeah. It's a very harsh, different world into the Madrid that we know now, for instance.
Totally. Yes, like Madrid in these years was one of the most modern places in the world because the reaction against dictatorship at the end of the dictatorship and the first years of democracy, Madrid was incredible. But my neighborhood was in Madrid, but isn't part of Madrid. We have to go to Madrid. No, we are we belong to another world. Really, yeah, totally.
And why was it important for you to really show how San Blas is or was in this novel?
Because there's something that I hate, that is when people talk or write or film about working class neighborhood, sometimes it seems like this position of tourist, of class tourist, that I hate. And I knew better the Brooklyn in literature than my own neighbor. No, so I read about Brooklyn in a lot of novels, but no one talks about my neighborhood or others. No, and working class places, and it's I really wanna talk about it. I find a lot of poetry, a lot of literature, a lot of tools of beauty in my neighborhood, in my class.
And do you think, what if you would have not grown up in San Blas but anywhere else? Do you think that you would have written the same novel about being trans?
No, it's impossible. No, because the class question is absolutely have the same weight than the trans issue in the novel, and the city, Madrid, and the neighborhood is the other pillar of the novel. No, it's impossible for me to conceive the novel in other coordinates.
So what I did tonight is that I asked 2 other writers to give a reaction to your book. And I think it would be a good time to listen to that now. So I want to invite Lara Balie. They have been the regular hosts of the program Wat Blijft on NPO Radio 1 since 2022. And Lara Balie made their debut with Zee van Ruimte, which I have here. So for everyone to see as well. Which was published by May 2024. They will be reading their reaction on the book of Alana. Whilst they set up, I'll also introduce Valentijn. Then we can all clap, I promise. Valentijn Hogekamp, who made his debut in 2021 with the novel Het aanbidden van Louis Claus, which received widespread acclaim in the press and was nominated for the Anton Wachterprijs. And in 2022, he wrote about his coming of gender in the personal essay Antiboy, which I also have, which is, I just heard, translated and also going to be filmed a movie. So now warm welcome, please.
Wow.
First, there's so much to love about this book.
Thank you very much.
As you can see, the way I read it. So thank you, Alana, for writing it.
Thanks to you.
I loved it a lot. and I read it a few times. So I would like to talk in reaction to your book about queer time and place and imagining a life as a trans non-binary person. This story intertwines with the life of slime molds, slijmzwammen, and amoebae. There is a scene in Bad Habit in which the protagonist is with her first grade love, Jay. And she wants to share her secret and tell him that she is a woman, a trans woman, a trans person. She feels safe with Jay. But conversations like this are never easy or light, always serious and often dramatic, she tells us. And I quote, "Everything that had to do with my identity when I was rehearsing possibilities of explaining it sounded like a confession of a crime or some unforgivable sin, having grown up with a language of guilt, disseminated from every corner, as the only way to refer to trans lives was disheartening." End of quote. Unfortunately, you need courage to come out and stay out as a trans person. Queers, and I believe especially trans and non-binary people, can have a feeling of disbelonging. I know I have. I tried hard to belong, to fit in, to have a life and a future. Once I stopped trying so hard, things changed. And I will explain why. Queers often do not follow the traditional heteronormative script due to a variety of reasons, mostly because we can't. We have a self-chosen family because parents rejected us. Some of us think there is more to life than reproduction and marriage, and others would love to, but can't because they are not allowed, or because they are not able to have children. And there are many more reasons. We live in a queer time and place. In his book, Professor Jack Halberstam explains that queer people often create their own life stories with unique timelines, and spaces. This helped me understand why my life has often appeared illogical to people who are neither trans nor queer. It was confusing for them when I was presenting as a lesbian. And it became even more so when I came out as a trans non-binary person, had my breasts removed, and started microdosing testosterone at 50 years old. I'm now 52. Queer time. Imagining a future can be very challenging for queers and especially for trans and non-binary people, partially due to a long-standing tradition of humiliating portrayals of trans people in film and on television. And how can you ever be yourself when your surroundings are so hostile? As a child, I repeatedly told people I was not a girl. But I stopped, too afraid to never be fully accepted. It led me to retreat into the deep labyrinths of my fantasies and daydreams, much like the protagonist in Bad Habits. Most of my fantasies revolved around female pop stars, who in my dreams magically transformed into my sisters. And they love me. As a boy-girl, I was fluid and filled with joy. My pop star sisters would tickle me, lift me onto their laps, and hold me close, showering me with endless hugs and affection, until it was time to go to school or sit down for dinner and adhere to the rules I did not understand. I shut myself off because moving between these two worlds made me feel so lonely and scattered. I started to change and adapt like an amoeba. Amoebas move by extending and extracting parts of their cells, which made me think. You can go along with the story around you for a while, but eventually you can't anymore. An amoeba always knows how to adapt and go with the flow, but I couldn't. I got depressed and very anxious. This flow seemed to give me only two options, man or woman, each with strict role expectations. And later in life, I saw how friends with a trans history also worked hard to fit in. Trans women who transitioned and played their role as best as they could. Long hair, makeup, heels, dresses, gentle movements, and crossing their legs while sitting. Many of my trans male friends grew beards and built muscle. And they shared interesting stories about how people suddenly moved out of their way on the street after they fully transitioned. One friend told me, this is what male privilege looks like and feels like. On the other hand, I've heard countless stories about how dangerous it can be for a trans woman to be visibly trans in public. It's also in this book. No privilege there. Another friend went stealth. Once he was passing as a man. He erased photos and changed his name. He returned to life with a secret, to live with a secret. He told me he wanted a normal life. Not to be confronted with the same questions about his body and identity every day. Because that's what's happened. I needed something else. I had to stop adapting to the binary. But how? Science fiction writer Octavia Butler and slime molds came to my rescue. I also encountered, which is important, the love of my life. Someone who saw me more clearly than I could see myself. She is like Eugenia or Margarita in Bad Habit, a beacon of light. She showed me the way. And what's interesting, she is cisgender, and until she met me, she lived the conventional heterosexual script with 2 children, the father, and a house in a new residential neighborhood near Amsterdam, designed specifically for white heterosexual families, as portrayed in the glossy sales brochures. With this love by my side, I dare to move to other worlds, beyond my own expectations and assumptions. To live a life as a trans non-binary person. And why was Octavia Butler the key to the reversal in my own thinking? She wrote about these slime molds and other colony organisms. Quote, "We find true colony organisms rare and fascinating. Here, they are the exception. There, perhaps the rule." And that's when it hit me. I had to create space for there, as an elsewhere. A space where you can imagine a life for yourself beyond the binary. Or as Amy Bang, professor of gender and women's studies, put it in her analysis of Butler, there is an elsewhere, a speculative space where someone can begin to imagine an otherwise. Slime molds are flexible and defy traditional categories. They can change shape like amoebas, very interesting. And when conditions get tough, the single cells come together to form a larger group, moving from being individuals to working as a team. In her writing, Butler embraces this flexible view of identity. It suggests being open to new ideas and possibilities instead of sticking to the old stories or rules. And that helped me find my way, along with all the uncertainties that comes with it. Just like the protagonist in Bad Habits, she too faces the uncertainty of being in between. This space can open up possibilities for new perspectives as some kind of liminal space. My great love told me to go for it and jump. And we got married 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm very happy. It's all new for her as well, and that's really interesting. Together, we embrace this way of living together in an extended family with friends, bonus children, and other forms of kinship, along with all the uncertainties that come with it.
Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alana, I want to start with you because maybe we're going to start this sort of inception conversation, but how did you listen to this?
This is incredible because the book never ends, because it's like an eternal conversation. And I think if something inside this novel made a spark to write this text, it's incredible. I'm speechless. It is so interesting because it transcends the conversation, because it transcends the fiction, and and everyone can feed the text on themselves, and it's great. It's incredible. I'm so happy.
Thank you. And thank you.
In your text, you talk about fantasies of having sisters that were pop stars and accepted you completely. This is something that really struck me because.
Do you want to know who they were? It's not interesting for you because I'm a bit ashamed about it. But the Dolly Dots.
Jorny Kaagman.
No, the Dolly Dots and Frizzle Sister. Was it Frizzle Sister? Frizzle Sissel. Okay. Elke dag je moet je bed uitkomen. That's the song, and I was so in love with them.
Okay. Well, my question was not going to be who, but thank you. But I do wonder, what does this really mean to you, this fantasy?
I think it was some safe space to go, to be, to not having this big fear of not being accepted, but it's totally the other way around. It was a world where they loved me and they hugged me, but in a position as sisters. So I don't understand that completely. Why?
Who are you in that world? How did you see yourself in this fantasy?
As a boyish human being, boy, girl, and as the one who was enjoying all this love. Yeah, it was really nice to just disappear in those dreams.
I think pop stars are like, to us, are like a religious icons, because I think we all need to project ourselves in something superior, something magical, and I think pop stars are like something like that.
Do you recognize this fantasy?
I always fantasized about saving people.
Okay.
So I didn't fantasize about pop stars, but I recognized the fantasy of being loved, of being accepted, and I did fantasize that Bruce Springsteen would draw me on stage to dance with him on Dancing in the Dark. But that's a video clip which Courtney Cox does exactly that thing. No, but I did love the craftsmanships of pop stars, because I could see they were like a mythical illusion, and I could see that they were built, that they were like, that there was nothing natural about them, and I loved the craft of being a fantasy for others.
There's a concept that the pop stars reinvented themselves, and it's like they are not humans, no? Since one era to another era of their careers, they are different people. They are different aspects, and they are like gods or goddesses.
Yeah, who built like their goddesses. Who built their own altars. Yes. Like they built a place to worship them themselves. Yeah. I love that.
But there is a contrast as well, because we have the pop stars, but we also have the molds, which is something very different.
We can think about it. There is something very different,
But why use such a contrast, and why use molds as well? Because when I read it, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it. Let's put it that way.
No, but it was handed to me by Octavia Butler, and she uses it to create for herself other worlds in which everything is possible. And I'm now reading her books, and it's fascinating how she does that. Did you read it?
Can I?
Which ones?
The trilogy.
Yeah, I'm reading it now.
She's incredible.
Yeah, because she's making up worlds, but they have a connection with now, with us, and she also uses this fluid personalities, which is really interesting. Like this genderless language. So for me, that was like opening up to a world of, or imagining a world I could be in. I just had to lose the idea that I had to do what was given to me. I had to find something that nobody knew yet. in my whole transitioning. It was not known. What I wanted was not known. I had to create that. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, you had to create space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that language, I find that interesting because you all wrote books, and especially in the Spanish language, the words you use are very gendered.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to how it was for you to write a book about,
To be in between.
Yeah, to be in between.
Because I think with a very gendered language like Spanish, you have to be clever and search some paths that are so interesting to write, because you don't have shortcuts, you don't have so many tools, and you have to force yourself to write better. And I see that like an opportunity to be a better writer. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I wrote a book in Dutch, Antiboy, and I wrote around a lot of the gender words. It starts with like, I'm being born, or in the end it says to my grandmother, I'm your grandchild. And when it was translated in English, that was not a problem, and that was very possible. But it's now being translated in Spanish and Slovenian. And with both of the translators, I had long Zoom calls like, okay, that doesn't exist in our language. It already starts with a problem like, I'm being born. We need to say, is a male born or is a female born? The ending of the word. Like already the me or the act of being born is already gendered in both of those languages. So I asked both of the translators, how is it now in your country with gender neutral terms, like how are they perceived, who uses them? And they both said like that they were in the country still in the state of, if it was in a journalistic way used, it was always very activistic. It would not be subtle. If I would choose for those options, it would scream a statement. And I'm like, I don't find the statement dirty, but what we were looking like how to translate best the way I wrote it in where I talk around it. And now we have all kinds of, like, some sentences are mixed up. Some sentences, I'm a boy who thinks girl is Dutch. I think in Spain we went for like, I'm your hire instead of I'm your grandchild.
I'm your what?
Nakomeling.
Oh.
Which is different. And in Slovenian we went for I'm your grandson, but then with a very girlish dot after it. We made all these constructions to make it like arrange or work around it in both of those languages. But it changes, of course, the story then.
But why did you not choose for the activist words then?
Because both of the translators, who I greatly trust, convinced me that then it would be a work of activism and not a work of literature at this moment in time. Yes, they said it would then be a journalistic work more than a literary work at this moment, and I trusted them
in Spanish.
In that.
If you use inclusive terms, you reduce your possibilities to reach
A broader audience.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot.
For me, it was at first I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I thought like maybe the translators feels at first, but I asked around, and in Holland, of course, the papers a few years ago adopted hen/hun like non-binary and neutral and they/them. Here, to read it, it's less. People say I don't like it. I don't find a thing of beauty, but it's not so much a thing of activism anymore. And our language is very. In our languages, it's also easier to write around it.
Because it's more neutral as well.
Yeah, in English, you can say I'm born. In Dutch, you can say ik ben geboren. And it doesn't ask you the same questions that the Spanish and the Slovenian ask. So that's also, I think, yeah, I have a theory that makes it like here for people less of a conflict because you can talk around it.
How was that for you? Because you wrote, well, Sea of Time?
Yeah. Yes, it's a good. No, Sea of Space.
Sea of Space.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's. I didn't use ways around. I just described the process I was in, and also it's kind of a research project. It's because I saw a lot of examples also in nature, in biology, and in different colonized countries where gender diversity and gender fluidity is very, very natural. So I think I worked the other way around. I started to find a lot of examples where this is not a problem at all.
Do you have an example for us?
Yeah, for example, oysters. They are very, very tasteful. They can be, but they are also fluid in the way if the water is very cold, it becomes male, and it is always female, and they can change back and forth. This is very interesting that because of the circumstances, they change their gender. And there are many more examples.
So to be clear, it only meant we were looking to eliminate a sort of problem in the language, not in the world.
No. I wasn't thinking that. No.
Because the fluidity in the world feels like the language makes it harder for me.
I understand that completely. Yeah, but it's interesting, right? That that we tend to forget that there are many examples of this fluidity, and that this language is we got so stuck in the language. Even
is it restrictive language then?
Yes, I think so. It's hard to. We see that it's.
But still, how is it restrictive if a language has a male and female ending of the words?
If you have to work around to describe yourself, I think so.
What do you think?
Tell me.
I think
because it's your language.
It's so restrictive, but in this condition, in condition of restriction, you have to develop a lot of great tools to be more effective with the language and to do literature. But I think it's so restrictive, but I think that the restrictions are in the dominant languages, because there are a lot of languages, little languages of countries and a lot of cultures who doesn't have this problem.
True. Yeah. They have many words for many kinds of identities and gender, and
it's a great test of creativity.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So yes, I think we got stuck a bit.
But because we're also talking about binaries here, like male and female, and what I find interesting is that in your book, you really see that San Blas really still functions in you're either female or you're either male. Is that still so in Spain, or was it just then?
We are. It's strange because Spain. There are two Spains. One can be the most incredible and modern society, who goes like 2 or 3 steps in the future. But there's a Catholic and Southern and restrictive society in Spain that remains and is kind of, I don't know how to say in English, a way you have to carry. Like in Spanish is lastre. And
baggage?
Yes, it's like some way you have to live for in order to continue your life. No? And it's been always a two-faced country, two-faced society.
Do you think that shaped you, as in you identify as female? Do you think that there was ever any space for you to think about maybe living in the sea of space?
I think not for myself, because I'm always be. I never had a little doubt with my gender, and so I don't know, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
You've always felt
Yes,
a woman.
Yes, totally. Yes, for me, when I discovered that I wasn't a woman in terms of society,
Yeah.
I was like so surprised. With 4 years, 3, 4 years, like what? No, I'm not. No, I'm not a girl. No. It could be
That's
a hero.
interesting.
No, I never have doubts, but I know people. In their 80s and 70s, that they say to me that if they when they were young, the non-binary explosion and the non-binary possibility were on the table, maybe they claim for themselves.
But it's also what I was thinking when I was writing the book, and also as a reaction on your beautiful book, is that there's also, of course, more space for you to be the woman you want to be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the research of our gender, of our position in the world, with more space is always better. It's always better to be better women, better men, and better non-binary people.
Did you feel restricted to a certain way of being a woman? Or maybe passing
No,
as one?
I found myself very restricted way to be a man. So, for me to be a woman, including the more restrictive terms, were a liberation. Was a liberation.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
What exactly?
Finding sort of your sea of space. How was that process for you, and also in your book?
Well, I'm inspired by what you say. It's clearly great. All the restrictions that maybe come with it are so much smaller than the things I don't have to deal with anymore. So the only thing I miss, when I was more female presenting, people used to hug me way more.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I miss being randomly hugged. I now get like, hey, bro, like more of that.
So people react differently to your
100%. When before this, I had very long, wavy hair. I was very dreamy. People were always saying, "Are you lost? Can I show you the way?" Or like strangers were like tying up my scarf or like buttoning up my jacket in the street. Like I was
Really?
looking like that. Yeah.
Didn't you tell me about not being lost? Was that you?
not being lost?
No, I don't remember, but I had this conversation. Okay, I don't know if it's super interesting, but I had this conversation with someone who just also became a man and also identifies as a man now. And he said, since I'm a man, I'm never lost again because I just pretend to not be. And it's so different than when I was... He said it's so different when I was a woman because then I was also always... I felt different then. And now I think... Fuck all. I'm a man. I know the way.
Yeah. But that comes a bit with the hormones, I think.
being alpha male and like, okay, I'm gonna walk one way, don't know if I'm going right, but not gonna ask for directions ever. Fuck that.
Yeah, and even because I'm microdosing and I have less doubts. I have my voice is harder. I speak louder. My echtgenoot,
Your what?
my wife says it. I'm like, huh? What does this mean? Because it's interesting that if my voice is louder and I feel more confident, I will, of course, people will see that, right?
Yeah,
they will act differently.
To give, I mean, I'm now giving superficial examples like not being hugged, but more precisely, I never found myself very capable when I was. Before this, I felt so far away in my head and from people that I couldn't figure out how to do stuff. And the big change is that it's for me easier now to be active, to figure out how to do something on my own. And I sometimes wish I could have had that without physical changes or without mental transitions, but apparently it was not possible. I couldn't, and I mean, in that type of time of my life, I also tried to climb out of that hole very much. I tried almost everything to not do this, because for this I was not sure if this would be it, and I hoped it was not it. So I tried everything else.
As in transitioning.
Yeah, I told this around dinner that I had two things. I was not sure if I was suffering enough to be allowed to transition. And I was not sure if I wasn't suffering from something else.
Ah, yeah.
So for a long time I thought maybe it's something else, you know?
But
And
what else?
I don't. There's so much things that in your life can happen that make you inactive or afraid or depressed or passive. So I was, I wasn't sure. But then the way that cleared up super fast when this fell into place, that was the amazing thing. That was the thing I'm super happy about. Like, whoa.
Do you recognize that?
No.
Alana?
No?
No, but I have my jaw
Drop.
here because
No sudden clearing up of a lot of. Yeah.
no.
How was that then?
No, I don't feel like that. I never feel like that. My transition was like is because it never ends. It's always like walking in a strange floor, and I never. Since I started to transition, I lost my security forever. I never feel with my mind clear. I never feel like completely sure what I'm doing. As now, this is my life, and this is gonna be forever.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that though with Balie?
Well, I think I feel more insecure about my path. Yeah, but I feel it's very nice to recognize my body in the mirror. That's really a nice feeling. But I find it hard to deal with. Maybe it's because I am in between. I'm defined as a non-binary, using pronouns like die dienst. It's hard to be in this between space because it's very confusing for people. I think it's. I can imagine I will, in the end, maybe choose a side.
You cannot
Is
imagine.
it confusing for you?
No, I like the position, but it's hard to constantly explain yourself. Understand what I mean?
Yeah. But
Totally, no.
you chose, you're gender neutral, but you chose a position, right?
Well, I chose pronouns, but
Yeah.
that felt like enough of a choice. And the gender identity didn't feel like a choice. That was already like, it is what it is.
I think
Yeah, that was always like, I was always like this. That wasn't hard.
But that's the same feeling I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just the surroundings, the world around us is, especially now, it's very hard to be a trans person. I think it's. But there's very negative conversations going around, and
for me, it's like I'm totally sure what my path is and what my gender is, but for me, it's never enough. I think this is more.
What do you mean?
More
It's never
precise.
enough?
It's never enough to be a woman, because I think I am so captive by gender roles, by patriarchy. I'm not a warrior, and for me is my insecurities and and my doubt is not about gender, about the path that I choose, because I don't choose a path. For me, be myself is inevitable.
Yeah.
So I choose the opposite, but it didn't work. It was impossible. I try harder to be a man, but it was impossible for me, absolutely impossible. So I think something inside me is broken forever, and I never became the woman that I had in my mind.
That's something I want to come back to after Valentine's.
Is it because this is about what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about womanhood afterwards, or either what does it mean to become a woman, and I think that your piece is a really good introduction to that.
I also I wrote a piece in laudatio in honor of your book. I made a lot of ezelsoren in the book. Yeah, and I'm gonna write about that attempt to be what you're not. I was very touched. Hallo allemaal, nu kan ik jullie ook zien. So, yes. Do-it-yourself divas. And the conversation continues in my head. It continues with laughter and swirling, bowing flames, lips illuminated by the dancing flicker. But also regret, a lot of regret, about what was left unsaid. I can't even imagine all the times I've made others lonely by hiding deep in my body. Instead of saying sorry for that, I want to talk about the right to shape yourself. The sewing studio where I take a course is called Do-It-Yourself Divas. That would be an excellent name for a trans women's clubhouse. I take those classes because I want to understand how I can create what my eyes can see. Recently, I daydreamed behind a sewing machine and I stitched a seam crooked. As I cut it loose with a sharp seam ripper, I remembered the plastic surgeon cutting out stitches in my chest and examining my scars. Satisfied, he said, "I did a good job." I confirmed, "Yes, nice work." I don't know what went wrong, but he still started to blush and said, "It doesn't really feel like work." And I asked him, "Is this your hobby?" I talk all the time about the right to shape yourself, but the truth is, of course, that someone else did this for me. After birth, your parents shape you into an acceptable copy of the life they know. Then your friends mold you into someone who knows the rules of the group. Your lovers stroke and fold you into something they can love. If they fail, they leave. And the malicious ones mold you with their fist. That leaves empty spaces, bedroom mirrors and bedrooms in which you can find yourself. People who do not struggle with their body and identity in the same way sometimes see the trans person as a self-chosen creation. They do not realize that what they are seeing is only the second creation, and that this was preceded by a long period of time in which someone tried to shape themselves into something they were not. My first creation took place when I was 9 years old, in my dark and still sleeping home at 6 in the morning. From my sister's room I had stolen dark green nail polish, silver eyeshadow and hair curlers, the rubber snakes you could twist into your hair to make it curl. I had wrapped my hair around them so tightly that my forehead showed white and red marks. After a restless night due to the pain in my head, I got up in the dark, and in the small mirror above the sink, I untwisted the rubber snakes. My hair curled up like pigtails instead of mermaid locks. Desperately, I combed through it with my fingers, but to no avail. After that, I applied thick, heavy streaks of silver eyeshadow with my fingertips and painted my nails green. But they were too prominent, too flashy. I quickly scratched it off and reapplied only a small green dot on each nail. On the way to school, the rain made my curls gradually loosen. Once I arrived in the classroom, I looked around, bashfully but proudly. I was a girl now. I had probably expected all the girls to notice and welcome me into their clique with a secret handshake, even invite me to their birthday parties. But no one seemed to notice. No one asked, "What are those fuzzy wet rings around your ears?" I thought they would see me. It seemed so contradictory, changing to become oneself. When I had to undergo a mastectomy and decided to shave my head, throw away my dresses and change my name, it was hard for people around me to understand. This was the undoing of my femininity. Why reshape my name? Why reshape my life? Because, as they sing in the musical Emilia Perez, changing the body changes the soul. Changing the soul changes society, and changing society changes everything. Just as Alana Portero feigned her masculinity, I spent a long time exaggerating my femininity. Alana calls this beautifully body the corpse, and the feigning of her masculinity the theater of death, where you construct your own cadaver. In my teenage years, I often listened to the hardcore version of Carmina Burana, which I would have liked to play at my funeral as an anthem. I was always on the verge of exploding, into tears or in violence against myself. Do you almost have to die to be allowed to change? Alana writes, "Whether you are a man or a woman or neither, your identity is not something you can experience or build on your own. My body needs to evoke desire as a woman, to be defined by hands that wanted me, to move freely like a dance, to elicit the right response from the other. It won't happen without people who see that your first attempt at becoming someone was just that, an attempt. It won't work without a doctor who wants to help you, even if he accidentally sees you as a hobby project. It doesn't happen without role models who, even if they don't know you, give you permission with their presence and their stories. You need people who recognize you when you show up as yourself. I want my friends' eyes to lighten up when they see me. I want them to ask, 'Did you always know?' Yeah. We know who we are, and we have known it since forever."
Thank you so much. Alana, I'm going to start with you again and maybe ask for a reaction.
The same as I think when we thought about our process and our transitions and our overcompensating episodes of life, we are wonderful and we make true literature. I think these terms of autodescription are near to poetry, and I'm so moved.
Thank you.
For your words.
Thank you. I loved the recognition I had in your story about that first creation, the first attempt, because people react to, of course, the moment for them you change. You change your name, you change maybe pronouns, you change body. And what I recognized in this book and resonated in my life is there was already a long period of creating before that. That's why for me it didn't seem so absurd to create a new name or new pronouns, because that felt like I've been attempting this all my life, but let's attempt now closer to what would feel good instead of, I don't know, I started that project of secret girlhood like so long ago. For me it was not such a big leap, the transition.
But for your surroundings it was.
Yeah, and I think it was for them maybe a bigger leap. Some people who interviewed me knew me also when I was writing poetry, more femininity. They were like, what happened? Because I was so hardcore trying that other thing that I used to prance around in long silver gewaden, dresses to the
Dresses.
floor, long hair, a lot of makeup. So for them it was a big leap. And for me it was sort of the same, but then better finally. Like coming home, to use a cliche.
It's very similar to you then, being also wanting to be a man and also looking for that extreme, right?
Totally. Yes, my experience was like when I coming out and say to all my people that I'm gonna start my transition. Everybody says to me about time,
Oh yeah.
and I was like,
What?
I need my piece of drama. So please, please. I've been suffering for this all my life, and everybody knows my way except me. So
Did you prepare a big speech that you couldn't give then?
no, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Really? I have to tell you something, and most everybody was about time. We all we all knew. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
How was that for you? Was there a big speech?
No, I think I used different steps, small steps to go where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So I think, well, for my family, it was already clear that I was always talked about being not a girl, and I had a lot of fights with my mother that she wanted me to dress. She sewed dresses for me, and I hated it. So she knew my struggle, but I think we all just put it away in some kind of way. We forgot. I also forgot that I had this big struggle
With
and
dresses.
with the dresses, and I had to reconstruct it for myself. It's like, wow, when I was 5, I was the person I am now, which is really interesting because what happened in between, right?
I never forgot. I just searched violently the other way.
Yeah, it's
No?
interesting how we all react, right, to the what happens in your life. Yeah.
And did you look for it in extremes as well?
Well, when I was younger, I just wanted to do all the boy things, and later on, I think what I did subconsciously was I think I acted a bit strange because I was so locked in myself. I just did strange things, like having a lot of relationships, one after each other, and ik ging vreemd. Hoe zeg je dat?
I cheated?
I cheated.
Yeah.
And it was all just this big movement I was creating all the time because I didn't dare to move in myself. I think that was the big problem. I created a lot of movement around me, but what I had to do was just listen to my body, listen to myself, and start moving. Start doing what I had to do.
Can I ask you something? When somebody asks, like, did you always knew?
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, when they ask the question, not
Yeah.
the answer, but do you like them asking the question, or you don't
like that.
mind, or?
Well, it's interesting
for
that
you
people,
as well. What do you think about this question? Like, do you always knew?
people always want to know where it happened, when this conscious feeling was there. But I think it's
When did you fall into this gender?
yeah.
It's a process.
I
Yeah.
think people need complete story
Yeah.
of who doesn't belong to us and belong to them, because they need the trans story, the perfect trans story. You knew since you were a child.
Like this linear story.
Yes. So I think it's inevitable, but we have to learn to say the others that for every trans person there's a different story. Like for every cis person there's a story. No, we are not special. We have our own lives, our total different lives, but they need the whole story and the whole perfect story. I think.
But why do you ask this question? Does it annoy you?
I ask it for two reasons. One is I gave a writing workshop to a group of people. Most of them were also trans. And we first made a list of things we didn't want to write about, like how we would love to change the narrative. Nobody wanted to write about being a butterfly who came out of a cocoon. And also nobody wanted to write about escaping from a burning house. And nobody wanted to die at the end because they were the characters in their own story, so they didn't want that cliche.
Fair enough.
But when we talked about what we did want to write about, there was this super good answer from someone who said, like, I wish there were more stories. I specifically asked what would have helped you when you transitioned. Like, what kind of stories did you need? And somebody said, I wish there were more stories about the complexity of grief and regret around this. And I sometimes have the feeling that you always knew. Sometimes that feels like making it simpler or flattening
The emotion? Then?
What?
Flattening the emotion, or?
I'm not sure, but I always try to describe a feeling between yes, I knew and no, I didn't know. So I'm now if I've chosen another path in life, I would have categorized those memories that I now have to prove that I always knew. I would have interpreted them differently. That's the weirdness. But it's really hard to discuss this with people because if they smell regret, in this very political climate, they can use. If they smell the complexity, they can use it against you. Like, oh, you didn't always know? Oh, are you sure? Oh,
Yeah.
regret. Oh, no, let's not give people the care they need. So, it's a
But
weird subject
there's
to
no
discuss.
correct answer
No.
to this question, because if you never did until you were an adult, but if you always knew, why didn't you start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And when I tried to explain to you, I thought like, oh, next time somebody asks me, it's like, I'm going to say, what's knowing?
So,
Like,
Give it back.
no, no, and
knowing, what is it? Knowledge.
and you always knew
Did you
that
always
you
know?
are
Yeah.
man or woman.
Who are you?
Oh, I started to give it back. In Antiboy, I asked to all the people, how do you know you're a woman? Or how do you know you're a man?
It's really
And
interesting to
Because
ask.
not
it's
to
true,
teach them,
because-
actually to
yeah.
know.
To know, yeah.
True.
You are curious about
You
that,
never
right?
put yourself in doubt. Oh, okay.
Rosalie, how do you know?
That I'm a woman.
Yes.
I always knew.
Perfect.
Good.
Yes.
But this also does bring me to another topic that I still want to discuss, and that I maybe stopped a bit in the beginning. You said role models, and also because of the group, you thought that people wanted to read things. And what I found very interesting about your story is that there were a lot of female role models who sort of shaped the main character as if they were mirrors.
Totally. Yes, because you never grow alone, and the person you became is not a lonely work, a lonely path. You are the people who touch you. You are the people who beats you. You are the city that you in where you lived. You are a lot of things, a lot of people, and when you have this crave for femininity, for be part of the world of the women. Every woman is an example. Every woman is a lesson. Every woman is a hope. And for this character, every woman in her life is a hope. Is a hope of future. Is the opportunity to dream with a life.
But what does it mean to be a woman then for you?
I don't know, and I didn't care because it's an impossible question. I don't know. I know that I live in the world that I need to live, the world of the women, and that's all. I'm not a woman. I do a woman. I make. I had my best friend, who is the artist who made the cover in Spain for the novel. She dies like 4 months ago, and she always said, we have to make, we have to do. We are not no one. We have to do things. We have to do gender. You have to do art. We have to do, and I think is the best way to see life. I don't know what is a woman, what is to be a woman, but I know that I'm one of them.
Do you recognize that?
No, I don't think so. No. No, that's interesting. It's for everyone, it's different. For me, it was always that I felt that I was not a girl, which is interesting, right? And what I wanted to be, of course, a few times I said I wanted to be a boy. I wanted to comb my hair like my father, and there were things I copied from my surroundings. But that was a kind of doing and mirroring. Also to belong somewhere, I think. And later in life, when I peeled off all these layers of that were on me, I think I'm now starting to feel what I could be, who I could be.
Yeah. How was it for you?
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No, the doing resonates a lot with me. For me, it's also the doing, and I sometimes wished I could have felt that doing more before this change or earlier, but I'm not sure why. But I couldn't get I did a lot, but not the things that made me feel close to myself.
What do you mean, close to myself?
To say that I was not... You can be very active, but still feel very passive if it feels a bit pointless. If all the actions feel like not adding up to anything. I remember when I got the diagnosis about the gen defect where I got the operation for, that my first reaction was when the doctor told me, I was like, but I'm not a person yet. You know, I haven't done anything. But like, of course I had done a lot of stuff, but it didn't feel like the important things. Yeah. So I fully agree that life is in the doing, but also be a little bit specific in what kind of doing.
Can you be specific in what kind of doing?
I'm now in a process of learning how to make everything myself.
As in handcrafting, you mean? Yeah.
Yes. So I'm learning to sew and to mold iron and to work with wood, and I make ceramics and I make books. Already make books. I'm learning how to write a film, because Anti-Boy is going to be a film. But it's not so specific about what I want to make, but more the idea that I could make anything. I would love to see the poles, North Pole and South Pole. That mindset of, if I want that, of course I could go there. That is for me the new thing, like the doing, just that kind of doing.
And before you weren't doing, or?
Before I was hoping that someone would sweep me up and take me to that North Pole.
What changed then?
I no longer want to marry rich. I used to always joke that I wanted to marry a lottery winner. My mindset changed. My mindset of waiting.
You're buying your
own lottery tickets.
Yeah, for my mindset of waiting in the hope that it's so hard to talk about things that are really meaningful to you and not use like cliches or Hallmark cards, you know. But I sort of stopped waiting for to find that house. I started building that house. I know it's cliches, but that's what's changed for me. That's why I called my text "Do It Yourself" DFAS.
But you were activated. That's it. Really, I find it really interesting that you yourself.
Weren't you?
No, I think I did already do a lot. So no, that's not what happened to me.
I found the process of choosing my operation very liberating. Like that felt like,
oh yeah,
I can decide this myself.
Yeah.
You know, I asked a lot of people and I read a lot of stuff, and I mean, I researched everything extensively. But the fact that no one can decide that for you, I think that was my activation point. Like, I have something that I can ask no one to decide for me. That was really, really
liberating, or
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, no. I lost my mom just before that. Yeah, I know that's a bit a bummer, but that also made me feel like, oh, I can ask no one. Wow. That's also a little bit, that was also a bit liberating, but that's a weird bridge in the conversation, so I'm backtracking.
No, I don't think it's a weird bridge, because it's something that I realized on reading all your books, is that in your book there was M, in your book there were all these women, and in your book there weren't, like, there was someone and then rejected the person in the book. I mean, what is my question? My question is, it seemed lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, is it something I read well?
Yeah. Yes. Of course. This book was written, came out of a conversation that I had no one to talk to. I wanted to talk about this, but there was at that moment nobody. So I wrote this book. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Did you have that loneliness?
Oh yeah. It's I think it's also, I don't know if you recognize that, but I felt very closed in myself, so it was hard for me to communicate normally with people. For me, I still have that a little. I can communicate very well with kids. Kids are no problem for me, but grown-ups.
And you're an interviewer.
Yes,
so you
I know
a lot about the science of a conversation.
Yeah.
I know, but I can't have a normal conversation. Did you notice?
Yeah,
Did you feel awkward when we talked?
You've been so silent as well.
No, but it's not because of you. It is because of me. There's always this awkward feeling I have when I talk to people, and I think that is. Well, you talked about damage. I think there is a bit of damage because of the process, because of being. I've never imagined this future for myself. I felt very disconnected with the world, and now I starting to feel a bit connected, but it's still very strange for me.
Yeah, I don't think my loneliness stemmed from my gender identity. I think that it's because I don't know how to play with other children.
Children and grown-ups?
Those are also children, but then large. No, but I am sometimes like, some people are like, oh, that must have been so lonely. But I'm not sure if this was the thing that made me lonely. This is kind of the thing that makes me happy. But the process, finding it, was a bit lonely. I didn't have like a lot of people around me. I mean, when the book came out, they all flocked. And I was like, where were you? Where were the other trans people or the people who were with their... Yeah. Writing books make me in a way less lonely, so that's good.
And what about you? The character has all these women surrounding her.
I think the loneliness at the beginning of her life and my life never ends. I think you and in the present day, when you are not lonely anymore, you feel a little bit lonely. I think maybe it's a cliche, but we all trans people remain lonely in a corner of our soul, our mind. I think it's difficult to grow up with this loneliness and then
Let it go.
let it go. No, I think for me it's impossible.
It's something you'll carry with you forever then.
Totally, yes, because the first years of our life, or my life, I'm not the universal trans woman. The loneliness at the beginning of my life, still here. I don't know where exactly, but still here.
Did something change after the book came out for you in that aspect? I mean, of course, a lot, but on the aspect of loneliness.
I don't know. I think no. I think I share my loneliness with others, and the others share their loneliness with me, but still loneliness for me and for the readers of the novel. But this loneliness for me is it's kind of a privilege, because I can see the world like outside the world, and for a writer, it's incredible. I'm here. I'm right now here, but I have the ability to go out to this scenario, to this conversation, and I can look it from the outside. And this perspective is incredible.
And is that because you are an outsider? Do you mean that? Or what do you mean by this?
I don't know. No, I think because the first years of my life were so I was so lonely. I feel so lonely that I saw the world through a looking glass. I saw the world
Because you were invisible?
No,
Oh.
no, because
Far away.
Between the world and me were a glass. I can see the world, and the world can see me, but I can touch the world, and the world can't touch me or hear me or nothing. No? It's my best definition of the closet, no? Like this crystal bell. But you can see the world from the outside, and for me as a writer,
Sounds empowering.
It's a great tool. It's a great tool,
Yeah.
because I have the whole perspective.
I also have to keep an eye on time, and the audience can see us. So maybe it's a good time to go to the audience and see if they have any questions. No one?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Oh, I see one.
Thank you. This is a question to you, Alana. I think it's really wonderful because in the last few years, I really feel like there have been more and more trans stories and trans books, and they've been so diverse and so different. And I was wondering if that's something you have also felt, and if it has inspired you in some way, or if that's something you can reflect on.
About these trans stories.
And your book, of course.
My reference writing the book were I think cis writers or cis stories, but I enjoy the process, sewing these stories coming out and creating like a safe space for my own novel. But I think that trans stories, and including my book, I claim the label because I'm so proud to be myself. I'm so proud to be a trans woman. But I don't like the others put the label on me, because this is a strategy of the cisgender system to reduce our work. And my work is not the other story, the thing of a weird human being. I claim to my right for my right to be universal, and I claim for the right to my siblings to be universal. So yes, it's great that trans stories. We are everywhere, but without us, the story of the world literature is not complete. So we are universals.
Another question? It's fine. It's part of the service that I hold it.
My question is to Alana as well. First, I enjoyed the book a lot.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
read the Spanish version. So I wanted to ask you if you can tell us about the cover, because here is saying Santo Domingo Sabio. So
Maybe I'll hold the cover. Maybe you can hold it. Do you mind?
sorry, it's so different from the Dutch version, at least. So if you want to share a bit of it.
The cover was made by my best friends, by a woman who passed at the beginning of the year, and she knows me so well. The thing is, she told me, I don't want to read the book before I'm working on the cover, and let's do magic, no? And she did the cover without knowing nothing about the book, and it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And this saint, Santo Domingo, I saw an image of Santo Domingo every day of my childhood, because I live so close to a school, a Catholic school who has this faith. And Roberta Marrero, that is the artist, was the artist. Don't know that thing. So that's the story.
Thank you for asking, and thank you so much for sharing. Are there any other questions? Oh, you can ask another one. That's fine.
Also to Alana, do you want to share something about the role of the music in your book? Because the book has a lot of course, the main character, all the women, the family, the city. But I found that the music was also so important. So if you can share something about it.
Yes, it's like we said, pop stars and music for the character and for me were like a religious icon, and the music for me is I hate silence. I hate silence. I can stand in silence. Music for me is like the walls of my safety space. I'm always listening music, and if I remember the past, always is a song surrounding my views, I remember my life and the life in general through the music. I'm listening to music every minute of the day.
What's the song you listen most to for this book?
For this book, Half a Person of the Smiths which is one of my favorite songs.
Why do you hate silence?
Why
Sorry?
do you hate silence?
Wow. I don't
We have a
know.
moment.
So we're ending this on a high note.
I don't know. I'm afraid of silence. I'm not afraid of darkness, but I'm afraid of silence. But I don't know. I don't have an answer. I hate it.
I think those were all the questions. Oh, there's one more. I'm so sorry. Wait.
I have one, but
We have audience at home who can't hear you otherwise.
oh, okay.
I'm not quite sure if I will be able to put it into words. I'll just start off. I was very happy, Alana, to hear you talk about this. Loneliness is as a tool, and it's something I recognize in other trans authors as well. How do I? And also in my own writing. My question sort of is,
Take your time.
okay.
It's okay.
Maybe because of this loneliness, or maybe because of the question of identity, a lot of trans narratives that I know, at least, seem to be focused on identity, be focused on an individual, or looking inward, more or less. But we were just now talking about books, maybe also being about being in community, a way of being in community. With other trans people, maybe, or maybe with a wider community. I was wondering, maybe just if you could talk some about that. How do we go about that? The opposition of the individual, maybe the lonely individual, and writing books, which might be an act of community. Also, maybe not. I don't know.
Thank you for the question. I try to do the opposite in the novel. The first part of the novel, this little girl is so lonely, but then her life is full of women who helps her to be herself, no? Like especially trans women, no? Margarita and the three Moiras, and I think we can do both. I think our stories can be built with loneliness and sense of community, because and the book itself became a piece to gather around and to build a community. So I think there's a space for everything, no? And I try to pay homage to a community of trans women of Spain, which I love, and they were the mistreated women in the recent story of our country. Trans women that now have like 75, 80 years, and I think I claim my part in this genealogy. We can do both. We can write about loneliness, about community, and gather a community around our work.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Is there another question I missed? Then I would like to thank you for this vulnerable conversation. It was very lovely. I also want to thank our technicians, Meridian Uitgevers, and my colleague Roman, who really helped me in the preparations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.